Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. We truly appreciate you being here to listen to us talk about some important issue that's affecting our community, something that I know you are all very concerned about. As you know, the Whittier Narrows Dam has served us for many generations, has played a critical role in protecting our region here in the city. Because of the dam, communities like Pico Rivera were able to grow and thrive and become the neighborhoods that we know today. Over the decades, we've built memories and communities on these federal lands, from the Pico Rivera Golf Course to the sports arena and spaces like Streamland Park, home to Pico Boys, places that have meant a great deal to so many families. Many residents are a little surprised because they thought that we owned this land because we've had it since city's incorporation. But as with any critical infrastructure, there comes a time when improvements are necessary. For the Whittier Narrows Dam, the time is now. This large, expensive project is about safety, about ensuring that the dam continues to protect our residents and communities downstream from the risk of flooding. Some have asked, so have I, the dam is dry most of the year. Why do you need to fix it? Well, the Army Corps Airman will explain to you that why. At the same time, we recognize that these improvements come with real impacts. I also want to take this moment to clarify a few points of confusion that have been circulating regarding this project. This project is not a data center. This project is not a warehouse. This project is not repurposing the land for anything else other than to improve the dam itself. And this is not a City of Pico Rivera project. We understand the loss and disruption this brings, whether it's long-standing community, institutions like the Pico Boys and the sports arena, or the day-to-day challenges of construction, including traffic, noise, and dust. What we are doing is working with the Army Corps to mitigate the impact, and we are working with the federal government to seek funding to make us whole again. And I apologize, I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Gustavo Camacho. I'm the mayor of the city of Pico Rivera. And I have my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, Dr. Monica Sanchez, right here with us as well. These are not small impacts, and we want you to know we recognize that, and we feel that with you. The City Council and staff have been working since day one to try to find some solutions to this impact. While this is federal land managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the city has been actively working to stay ahead of these impacts since early 2018. I want to thank Congresswoman Linda Sanchez for her steadfast advocacy and for serving as liaison between the city and the Army Corps, ensuring the concerns and the needs of our community are communicated effectively with the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government. Congresswoman Linda Sanchez has been very, very effective and a promoter, amongst other things, of the city of Pico Rivera, and she has definitely been instrumental. But I would say not everyone has been as supportive. I know that we've sought the support of U.S. Senator Alex Padilla last year, and to no avail. However, we're going to keep seeking that support, and because we need it not only from Congress, from our Congress members, but from the U.S. Senators as well. We are committed to advocating for our community, pushing for strong mitigation measures, including dust control, noise reduction, traffic management, and above all, public safety. I mean, we were talking about last meeting with Colonel Baker. He's not here today. Aaron is representing the Army Corps, and he'll pretty explain to you what's going on. But aside from the dust, aside from the noise, when it comes to security guards, one of the things, conversations we've been having is we don't just want to see the security guards be at the entrance gates and or protecting expensive equipment that the contractors have. We want them roaming within and throughout the project area. We want them professionally dressed. We want them identifiable. Those are conversations that we've had with Army Corps of Engineers because it's important to public safety. We know the concerns that homeless encampments might spur up quickly. As we know, we live by the riverbeds. We've seen them. We live within them, and I know it's been an impact, but we want to make sure that they're doing so they can have effective communication with the sheriff department and our private security guard that we have as well. So that's important conversation and mitigation that we continue to work with our Army Corps to make sure that that is active. We're also working closely to explore both short-term and long-term solutions for our displaced Legacy Baseball Association Pico boys, who just celebrated their 70th anniversary. They're older than the city. And generations of families have gone through being part of the Pico Boys. And so it's an unfortunate dynamic. I mean, we've grown with them. They've done a lot of great professional baseball players have come out of Pico Boys. And we also want to maintain access to the iconic Pico Rivera Sports Arena that promotes our culture. It's recognized as a capital of charreria in the country. And many A-list celebrities have used it as a springboard throughout the many decades over the years. We're not building a stadium. There's a conversation about a soccer stadium, far from that. But we are working to protect the sports arena. That's something important to our community. And so there'll be some impacts, that because of accessibility, but we're working with them. Lastly, the golf course. I mean, this golf course, from senior clubs to youth clubs, many families, people congregate here. People use this place. I learned how to play golf here. Many of you probably learned how to play golf here. I mean, I brought my kids. You probably brought your kids here. But unfortunately, we lose this beautiful golf course as well that's been part of our community. This town hall is just one of several. We are here because we believe communication must be direct, transparent, and ongoing, not just a 800 number, but real conversations like this one. We know that there are concerns, fears, and questions about both the project and the dam itself, and you deserve clear answers. We want to have an open line of communication throughout the project, not just today, not just to inform you, and then you go back to your homes and then construction begins and so forth. The project will bring disruption, and unfortunately, there's just no way around that. For those who live, work, and travel through these areas like Rosemary Boulevard, the impacts are felt. But this work is essential, and it's about safety. It's about protecting lives and the community's future. Monica Sanchez, Dr. Sanchez, Mayor Pro Tem, lives just down the street. I live on the north side over by Beverly and Paramount. So, this is my area. Rosemead, I recognize, Rosemead was going up a few feet. Everyone will explain how that will be. But we recognize exactly what these impacts, this is our side of town, if you will. And through it all, we are committed to communicating clearly with you, advocating for you, and ensuring your voices are heard every step of the way. This is an Army Corps-led town hall, and we're here in partnership with them. But once again, like I said, we don't just want us to come today and communicate through the Army Corps. We, the city, also are going to make our efforts throughout the project, because we recognize that not everybody can be here. People work. People have other activities. We appreciate you being here, but not everybody's going to be here. So we want to go directly to the community to make sure that we have an ongoing conversation of what's coming. We have an ongoing communication throughout the project, but we also make sure that that we have a direct line of communication with us, so we can address those concerns. So as we have our conversations with Army Corps, and as Army Corps gives us a commitment of what they're going to do to mitigate the impact for you, we want to make sure that they stay to their word. And Colonel Baker was here the last minute. He couldn't be here today, but as I talked to her and I talked to Colonel Baker, we expect nothing less. And if they are going to give the work to the contractors, and the contractors are going to hire some subcontractors, they might just forget about all our conversations. But we're not going to let that happen. We're going to make sure that Aaron and the Colonel understands that if they are not fulfilling their obligation as it relates to noise, as it relates to dust, as it relates to security, they will hear from us. And I'm not shy about that, as Aaron knows, because your safety and your well-being is important. And it's, like I said, there's no way to avoid this project. And so we recognize this is like years in the making, and will be affected, no doubt. But lastly, I do want to, as I talked about the Army Corps of Engineers, I do want to thank them because I would say, because I've been in many conversations since day one, whether it be here local, whether it be at the state, or whether it be in Washington, D.C., we have had many conversations, and they've been very helpful in engaging and communicating with us and listening to our concerns. And as we seek funding to make us whole again, they have been working with us to see, okay, this is what we can do. They're not obligated to make us whole, but they're helping us, kind of help us and guide us in many ways to get to those who do have the purse to give us some funding to be able to mitigate that impact. So with that, I thank you for being here. And on behalf of my colleague, city staff that's here today, we want to continue engaging with you. I do have my business cards, my cell number's there. I'll be more happy to give everyone who wants mine, and you can call me anytime, but I appreciate you and thank you. And with that, I'll introduce Aaron from the Army Corps of Engineers to provide us a full-on detail as to the project itself. And I will be here too to answer any questions as it relates to the city. Thank you very much. Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. As he said, my name is Aaron. I'm a civilian employee with the U.S. Army, specifically the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which is a major command of the U.S. Army. In addition to significant duties we have to protect our men and women in uniform who work so hard to protect us, both here in the nation and abroad, we have a sacred duty, a trust, is the largest dam-owning federal agency in the United States. We own 700 dams across the United States. Now, to put that in context, there are 90,000 dams across all 50 states. So 700 may not sound that big, but our dams tend to be the biggest and most impactful. And our dams were built exclusively for public benefit. All 700 of those dams are built for taxpayers across the United States to benefit from. Most of them are built to protect lives and reduce flood risks and allow communities like Pico Rivera to develop safely the way they have today. And the reason I'm here today, and the reason my team is here today, is to talk to you about one of those dams that I'm staring at just out this window right here, Whittier Narrows. That dam is built, that dam is operated and maintained by us, and that dam is going to go under a major renovation over the next few years for all of you. We all come to work with that sacred duty in mind to keep you safe. And right now we have a dam that we're worried will not keep you safe. The good news is we've got the money, we've awarded a contract, we're going to get started on that project this year. And it's going to make all the difference in the world, and you guys are going to be able to get back to your lives and not think about this dam when we're said and done. The bad news is it's going to take us 5 or 6 years to fix that dam, and that will not come without impacts. The mayor's made that clear. We'll talk about those with you tonight. But we are here as civil servants with the U.S. Army representing Colonel Baker, who has 5 dams in Los Angeles County, this one being the largest and most impactful. And he and us have a sacred duty to each one of you all to make sure that dam does what it's supposed to protect your lives, your property, your businesses, your schools, your children, your grandchildren, your families, and your relatives. And that's why we're here in this community. That's why we've been in this community for the past 70 years. That's why we want to be here in this community for the future, to protect all of you all. We are not here, just to reiterate what he talked about, to do anything else. If there's data that needs to be centered, we are not the people to do it. I don't even know what a data center is. I have no clue, to be honest with you. I've heard rumors about land grabs. You're going to see us doing a lot of work. You're going to see us doing a lot of work in parks that you've leased from us over the years. But all the land we're going to be working on is owned by the federal taxpayer and put to use to make sure that that dam is operated and maintained. We're not taking any private property, we're not taking any homes, we're not taking any backyards. We're using the property that the Army Corps of Engineers was given to build that dam, own and operate it, to make improvements to it. There's no land grab involved. And when we're said and done, any land that is available for recreation in the future, we welcome it and hope that that opportunity extends. But I just want to make sure that that's clear. Now, let me talk a little bit about logistics. I'm going to go through a presentation today. I'm going to try to be open and transparent with you about what's coming your way, try to contextualize with it. Happy to engage in a conversation with anybody here who would like to as I go through that. But I've got a team of people who are much smarter than I am behind me that is, after I'm said and done talking, is going to make themselves available to talk to you and answer your questions directly. If you're not comfortable talking with me or any one of those teammates, but you've got a question, or you've got a comment, or you've got a concern, we've got some cards. My teammate Stacy's holding them up right now. Make sure you put your information on there, your comment and question. We will do our very best to address it. Everything that I'm going to talk about here tonight, everything that every one of my teammates is going to talk to you about tonight is on a website. You're going to see that website tonight. There's data where you can find that website. Check that website regularly. We're going to update it. We're going to keep it maintained. Any changes will be on that website. That's your best vehicle to interact with us on a regular basis. But this will not be the last time you guys see me or this team. Our commitment is to be open and transparent with you as we start this project, as we work this project, and as we complete this project. And as the mayor's made it clear, I don't really have a choice. We've worked really closely with city management, and we're going to be engaged with them and you guys throughout this. Like I said, we've been here for 70 years since we built this dam. We've largely been a silent neighbor, and we want to go back to being a silent neighbor. But for a while, we're going to have to rehab this dam for all of you, and we're going to be a little loud and proud during that time frame, and you guys are going to notice it, but we're going to be available, and there will probably be times where something will happen that you need to complain to your city management or us about, and there are going to be vehicles and ways to us get that feedback, so if there's any corrective behavior that has to happen, it will happen. I would love to stand up here and guarantee you two things. One, that you will not feel any changes in your community associated with this construction. But I cannot do that. What I can 100% guarantee you is that you are going to feel changes in your community due to this construction. Secondly, I'd love to tell you that everything we do will go perfectly and nothing will go wrong. But this is a major piece of civil construction, and sometimes things go wrong. We're committed to making sure when something goes wrong, we correct it, fix it, and make it better, and try not to repeat what went wrong. And those are just the realities of a big construction job. Last piece of logistics is we are being hosted tonight, very graciously, by the Pico Rivera Golf Course. They have a number of events. They've got one tomorrow morning. We've scheduled this from 6 to 8 tonight. They've asked us to try to get out of here as quickly as possible after 8 so they can set up for their next event, and I want to be a good guest and accommodate that request. But if you all have questions for me or my team that go beyond 8 o'clock, we're happy to meet you out here, happy to meet you in the restaurant bar area, in the parking lot, and continue the conversation as that goes on. Okay. Let me cut into this a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you about the potential of that dam failing, of a concern that we have that there are storms that could occur that could cause that dam to fail. That's a really scary topic, because if that dam were to fail, Pico Rivera would have the worst day it could ever imagine. 24 other cities downstream of Pico Rivera, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, are going to have a really bad day. So this is a very scary topic. And I want you to be a little bit scared of that. I'm about to spend several $100 million and change your lives for 5 to 6 years because there is a scary issue with this dam that we need to address. But I want to put that issue in context for you. We are not concerned that this dam could fail every single day by any means. This dam has been here for 70 years. It's seen 70 years worth of storms. Whether you know it or not, every single year since that dam was built, it has kept water out of your city. That dam, along with 4 other dams in the county, Santa Fe upstream of it, and then 3 in the San Fernando Valley, along with channels and levees that the Army Corps of Engineers has built with LA County, have allowed this entire county to develop in a way it would have never happened without them. And that includes Pico Rivera. Pico Rivera would not be the city it is today without that dam. And so it's done its job for 70 years. It's seen 70 years worth of storms. Those are not the storms I'm worried about with this dam. The storms we built that dam not for 70 years worth of storms, but for hundreds, for 1,000 years worth of storms. And some of those bigger storms, while they haven't occurred yet and are very unlikely to occur on an annual basis, are still probable, and if they were to occur, could cause some issues with this dam that we're worried about. You do not need to go home tonight, though, and fear for your lives because you live downstream of this dam. As the mayor pointed out, it's dry 80% of the time. The other 19% of the time, it's holding storms that it's extremely competent and well designed to do. It's just those 1% chance of those events that occur that we get worried about. They're very rare, they're very unlikely, but they are probable. And because we have 1 million+ people that live downstream of this dam, starting with you all in this city who rely on this dam, an investment's warranted, even though the types of storms we're talking about are very unlikely to occur. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about things that we're totally confident in right now and things that I'm still trying to work out, but I'll have answers for in the future. I kind of want to address as much of that as I can up front. I think I've made this clear. I am very confident that everything we're doing is for you all. I know that there will be impacts that you guys have to suffer associated with this investment, but we're making it for you. We're coming to work for you. That's the whole reason we're doing this project. I'm confident that when we're said and done, the concerns that I'm going to talk to you about tonight will be addressed. They'll no longer be an issue. This dam will do what it's supposed to do, even for those large storms. I'm confident this will not be the only time you hear from us or get to talk to us or communicate with us. Like I said, we're going to be engaged in your community throughout this project. I am confident that my team is working very hard with our construction contractor to do everything we can to minimize the impacts that your community will see, but I'm just as confident that I cannot avoid those impacts, and there will be impacts that your community will see, and we'll talk about those tonight. I'm confident that when we're done, the dam's going to look a lot like it does today. There will be some changes, but on the grand scale of things, they'll be largely minor. And when everything's said and done, I think you guys are going to get back to the peaceful understanding of this small, strong, silent piece of infrastructure that we have behind us here tonight. Now, what are some of the things that we're still trying to work out? We have executed a contract with a highly competent construction firm, Barnard Construction. I'm very happy with the firm we've been able to select for this project. They have modified and built dams around the world. They're highly competent. They have worked in communities like yours in the past. They understand the issues at hand, not only from a technical aspect, but from a constructability aspect and from a community impact standpoint. We are working to finalize their start of construction. I think it could be as early as October this year. It could be as late as December. But sometime during that time period, you're going to start seeing a lot of work on that dam. I'll know more in the next 2 months, and we'll be back to let you know when I know more exactly about the precise start of construction. I know that you are going to see a lot of construction traffic come through your community. As we'll talk about tonight, almost all the work that I have to do to modify this dam to keep all of you safe is on the portion of the dam that faces your city. It's not on the upstream side. And so the work they have to do is on that portion of the dam. They need to be able to haul a tremendous amount of material in and out of that portion of the dam. And as we'll talk about tonight, they're going to be batching and placing a lot of concrete. Those batching facilities are being designed to be put in locations that should be isolated and away from your homes, upstream of the dam. Those are loud facilities. We don't want them near your home. But once they batch that concrete, they have a limited window to be able to get it to the dam and start placing it to make sure that concrete does what we need it to do. It has an expiration date after it's batched, basically. And so we're going to have to find the fastest way we can get it from those batching facilities to put it onto the dam. And that means we're going to have to come through your community in some instances. So you're going to see construction traffic coming through off of Rosemead, onto Gallatin, up to Durfee, into Streamland Park, and you're going to see construction traffic come up Fairway here too. Those are our primary access points. How much, timing, duration, we'll know more this summer, but you will notice that change. We, in the contract, have significant restricted most of the significant construction work to Monday through Friday business hours. We've got a lot of homes that directly abut this dam, and I assume most people like to sleep at night who live in those homes. I'll be honest with you. In a perfect world, I would not restrict their work. The reason I wouldn't restrict their work is because they would be able to get done faster and get out of here a lot quicker, and it would be cheaper for all the taxpayers across the nation. But we also know that when we work in an environment like this, and frankly, this is the most urban dam we own out of those 700, we've got to make some accommodations for those residents who are directly abutting to the dam. And I don't think any of you could suffer 3 years of 24/7 work in your backyards. And so we've generally restricted most of that significant construction work. Now there will be some deviations to those restrictions. And we're going to talk about tonight, we're actually going to be modifying 2 roads that cross over the dam, most significantly for Pico Rivera Rosemead, and then also Lincoln, the small municipal road that leads into Montebello. Those roads will remain open during construction, but we are going to have to make changes to traffic patterns, and the best time to do that is at night. But those aren't directly abutting homes. There will likely also be some limited time frames, probably due to very hot days in the summer, in which the contractor may need to do some work at night. Those will be variances to their contract. They'll have to request those variances from us. We will coordinate with the city to do everything we can to minimize the impacts from those limited deviations to doing some limited night work. And the only reason we would allow it is because if we didn't, we'd be here even longer than we want to be. And there's just some good reasons to get it done. But again, those would be very short durations. Right now, we project the work, if everything goes as planned, to be done in about 4.5 years. So we start late 2026, we get done early 2031. Everything you see tonight and everything you look on our website will say that we'll be complete in 2033. I'm adding a little bit of contingency to that time frame. When you do a big project like this, things can happen that you cannot overcome. You can have fires, you can have wildfires, you can have earthquakes, you can have major floods. You can have other global economic issues that can slow a project down like this. So I'm not confident in the exact amount of time it's going to take us, but it's going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 years, depending on how things go during construction. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to explain why we're doing what we're doing. Talk a little bit about what construction is going to look like, what you guys can expect. Remind you again of why we're taking those impacts, and then let you know how you can stay informed and engaged with us. So let's cut right into it. What are we doing? I mentioned that we have some concerns about this dam failing from some very unlikely, most would probably say very extreme storms. They are not concerns that we have from the routine storm waters that we hold behind the dam during rain events that usually occur every winter. They're from very large events, sometimes referred to as atmospheric rivers, pineapple expresses, you may have heard in the media, but we're talking about large ones that really have never occurred in the greater Los Angeles area since the life of this dam, or in the life of any of us who have lived in this area. But we got two issues that we're trying to address. The first is, let's talk a little bit about how the dam works. Rain comes off the Pacific Ocean, it sets up, it hits the mountains back here, it hits the San Gabriel Mountains. That rain works its way down the mountains, it's captured by several small dams that LA County owns up in the mountains. They make some releases, that water then goes into Santa Fe Dam, located up there in Irwindale, where the 605 and the 210 come together. That's a really large dam too. And that dam slows those waters down and keeps the San Gabriel River between here and Whittier in bank. And then it slowly releases those waters. But there's also rain that occurs between Santa Fe and Whittier, right? And Whittier's got two dams that comes through it, or two rivers that comes through it. It's got the San Gabriel River, which is right next to us right here, and it's got the Rio Hondo, which goes into the LA River downstream at the city of Downey. And so when we get enough rain that we project that the San Gabriel, the Rio Hondo, or the LA River could go out of bank downstream, we close these gates that you see behind you, and we artificially store that water and slowly release it to make sure that those rivers stay in bank. Make sure your homes stay dry, and we'll hold that water behind the dam. And we do that every year, multiple times a year. And you guys probably don't even notice it, but we're keeping your homes dry when we do that. There are storms that can occur that have not yet in the life of the dam that can significantly load that dam. And because that dam is very strong and competent, it will not let that water go through that dam head downstream. But that water is creating a tremendous amount of pressure, and it's looking for any way it can to get downstream. And commonly, with dams like Whittier Narrows, that water will work its way underneath the dam and surface on the downstream edge of the dam. And I mean just the edge of the dam. I don't mean your homes, I mean just the edge out here behind us. That in itself is an entirely innocuous situation, and it happens with almost all of our dams. It's not a dam safety concern, it's not a flooding concern for all of you. Unfortunately, at Whittier, the foundation, the earth, the soils that the dam is founded up, is made up of highly permeable sands, which allows a lot of that water to creep on its way downstream. Not only are those sands really permeable, but they're highly erodible. And so when you get a high head of water on this side of the dam, and it's pushing all that water downstream here, that pressure can cause those sands to start to erode and create a tunnel or a cavity underneath our dam. And just like you wouldn't want a tunnel or a cavity building underneath the foundation of your home, we don't want a tunnel or cavity building underneath the foundation of our dam. And if that tunnel or cavity gets big enough, our dam can fail, and that water can release and go downstream and be extremely harmful to your lives and property. Fortunately, we have tried and true solutions to that problem that we've implemented at hundreds of our projects across the nation. For lack of a better term, we dig a trench that's very much like a French drain right here at the toe of the dam on the Pico Rivera face facing side of the dam that relieves those pressures, captures that water, and keeps those soils from eroding backwards and creating that tunnel or that cavity. Then to add a little suspenders to our belts, we put an additional weighted berm, or we extend the toe of the dam downstream towards Pico Rivera to add some additional weighted relief to that. So this will be the major modification that will change your park space right now, the golf course and Streamland Park. As you will see, about a 6 to 10 foot high berm extended 50, 60, up to 80 feet downstream of the dam. That berm will be covered in soil, that berm will be covered in grass, and it will look natural and be available for recreational use in the future. But that berm is now critical to dam's performance. So we can't have penetrations go into that berm like tree plantings or fence posts or those sorts of things. So the type of recreation that you establish on top of that berm will probably be more passive than what you've used today. But that's a great solution. It solves this problem. It makes it go away. What makes this problem particularly impactful for you guys is the two areas that we're most worried about it occurring are here at the golf course and here at Streamland Park, which is why those are two areas we've got to modify the dam for those conditions. The other concern we have from the dam, which is far less likely to happen, but would be tremendously catastrophic if it did, is that we know that there are storms that now can occur since the dam was built that can overwhelm its storage capacity. So even with us releasing all the water we can down the San Gabriel and down the Rio Hondo, there can be more water that comes in than we can release, and it can exceed the storage capacity of the dam. Why is that happening? For a lot of reasons. We understand weather a lot better than we did 70 years ago. 70 years ago, there was a whole lot less pavement up and downstream of this dam, and that pavement causes water to move faster downstream towards the dam. The problem with that is when it overwhelms the storage of the dam, it goes over top, and the portion of the dam that we're all staring at outside this window is not designed to receive those waters. And those waters will be highly erosive as they move from the top of the dam to the bottom of the dam, and they're likely to cut a hole in the dam and again release a catastrophic tidal wave of water downstream. Very unlikely that a storm like that will occur, but it's probable enough, and I've got a lot of people who live downstream of this dam. I need to address that problem. What are we doing to do that? We're basically putting an armor or a shield on the downstream face of the dam made up of that concrete that I was talking to you about. It'll be an engineered system of steps that are engineered and designed to dissipate the energy of that water as it overtops and keep the dam in place when that event happens. Now you might ask me, Aaron, why are you allowing the dam to overtop at all? Why don't you just raise it so it never overtops? The problem with this dam is it's so urban. To raise a dam, you don't just raise it vertically, you have to extend its footprint horizontally. And for me to raise the dam to keep it from overtopping, I probably am buying a lot of your homes downstream. I'm having to extend the footprint downstream. So I'm having to impact your community. As I raise the dam, I also create more storage space upstream, which means that I have people now who live inside a potential reservoir, and I may have to buy them out. And I understand that housing is an issue in Los Angeles County, and so taking more houses away upstream didn't seem like a good solution. This overtopping event is so unlikely that taking that sort of impact both up and downstream did not seem reasonable, and so protecting it from the overtopping, which will at this point in time be a negligible contribution to the flooding that's happening in LA County from an event so extreme, seemed like the right investment to make. Okay, the area that you're looking on here, and again, you can find all of this on the website, that's hatched in red here. Again, we're kind of looking at an aerial overview of the dam. We've got Lincoln here, Rosemead coming through here. We're all sitting here at the golf course here. This area hatched in red is going to be closed to the public and given to our contractor, Barnard Construction, to do the work they need to address those 2 failure modes. Like I said, all the permanent modifications are going to be on the downstream side of the dam, but there are areas upstream that they're going to need to stage and batch that concrete. Most of that batching will be up here at the corner of Durfee and Rosemead. There's a large fallow field there, sometimes referred to as strawberry fields. There may be another batch plant over here in Old Bicentennial Park. But the batching material, the concrete that they batch here, they've got to find various ways to deliver to all 3 miles of this dam to put that armor or that shield put into place. And so that area will be closed to the public during construction. All right, what's construction going to look like? The pictures you see here are actually from a demonstration that we did last summer and last winter up at Santa Fe, just to sort of prove our means and methods. And what you see in these pictures is going to be very similar to what you see along the downstream face of this dam. Like I said, you're going to see a lot of construction equipment and traffic moving from upstream to downstream. You're going to see a lot of excavators, dozers, and rollers at the dam. You're going to see them excavating into the dam because they've got to get a solid surface to put that armor put into place. You're going to see them cutting that French drain I was telling you about at the toe of the dam. That's okay. That's all right. Everything we've designed, this project we've designed to make sure that the dam stays operational and safe to you while we're doing that work. So don't be alarmed when you see people cutting into the dam or digging big trenches downstream of it. None of that is making you less safe. All of it's making an improvement to the dam. You're going to see us placing large volumes of sand and gravel along the face of the dam and in those trenches. And then you're going to see us covering all of that with that armor, with those concrete steps. And you're going to see us doing that at multiple locations at once. We're going to try to be as efficient as we can as we complete this project. Working at multiple locations doesn't mean that we're going to be working across the entire dam at once, but it does mean that we're balancing the work we have to do to try to get done as quickly as possible. Like I said, most of that construction is going to be during daylight hours, Monday through Friday. We'll do some hauling at night and some limited construction at night along the roads, and there may be times, actually there will be times, where we have to make some slight deviations to do some night work. The mayor mentioned site security, and we're taking that seriously. You know, the unfortunate reality is we've got an unhoused population that occupies this basin, occupies this riverbed, and you've got areas right now that are heavily utilized by the public and are policed accordingly. And there is a concern by the city that once we occupy all this, that might become an area that would become attractive for domiciling. The entire site will be secured by physical barriers, and we will have 24/7 armed, uniformed security officers patrolling the area all the time. This kind of work is going to be pretty active. This is not going to be an attractive area for people to domicile, but I am under no illusions that sometimes things happen that you can't control. So we may have an issue here or there, but it'll be addressed immediately, it'll be removed immediately, and at no point in time will we have areas that are attractive or allowed for any long-time domiciling. We're going to work actively to make sure that doesn't become an issue during construction. All right, let me stop there for a second. I know Dr. Sanchez and the mayor both live in this area. Some of you guys do too. Anybody willing to talk to me about what their concerns are with this? Anybody got a house up against the dam? Start right here. Hi, I'm Aaron. Marisa?
Marisa. I live directly in front of Streamline Park, like Durfee and, Cruz? And that seems like it's a potential area that is going to be the most active. What do I do? Like, that's going to be consistent all day, traffic all day. Do I have to like consider probably I don't know, moving possibility because it's going to deplete the property value of my home. Like, this is a big concern. 2033 is 8 years. That's a long time. I'm 36 years old. That's crazy. So tell me what to do.
Well, I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you that I completely understand your concern. And I don't want to underplay the fact that you are going to see trucks coming up through there. Streamland Park is going to be area where we are going to be placing a lot of concrete, doing that excavation, putting that stuff. The contractor has to, by their contract, abide by all noise, dust, vibration, all those sorts of things that are by the city, the county. They can't exceed any of those levels. In fact, they are installing instruments now to make sure they have a baseline understanding of what that is, and they can't exceed it.
Of course. But I know exactly, because we have trucks already, because there is trucking area already. I know exactly how much the city cares about that and how much they care about the dust. And that's already been an issue. So this is just a compounding issue, is what I'm trying to add.
Yeah, and I think it will be. I think it will be at a different level of magnitude than you've experienced to date with people coming and going just from Whittier fertilizer. I wish I could tell you that I'm going to magically make all that go away and those 8 years will be perfect. They won't. We are working with the contractor to install a noise barrier that will reduce dust and noise, from your home directly and the homes directly from there. Should reduce some of the visual impacts that you see during that time. But the truth is, it's going to be unpleasant for you for 8 years, and I wish I could make that better for you.
We already have trucks that park in front of our home, look into our yard. I have nieces that play in it. And this is just going to be more. And I know every home that lives on that street experiences that daily. And this is just going to be more. So we're going to just have more trucks looking into our houses. Like, I have to keep my windows closed all the time and not be able to look outside, because not only is there trucks looking in, but there's construction outside. Like, you can understand, it's very frustrating for a homeowner.
I can't understand. Hopefully we're going to have barriers that keep that issue from coming to bear. But the reality is, if you guys see anything of inappropriate behavior like that, I know the city's going to be using their 311 app. They're going to have a direct pipeline to us. Don't let an hour go by where something like that happens without us finding out, because we've got means and methods to address those issues immediately.
I really hope it works better than it has been.
Thanks. I appreciate you sharing that. Hi, I'm Aaron.
I'm Aurora Villon, and I basically have the same concerns.
Across the street from each other.
Yeah, we are across the street, and I hear about the noise, I hear about the dust, everything else, the impact to our homes. What protocol are we going to follow? For example, if I have a problem, you say give back to us right away. What is the protocol, and how do we do that, and how do we get a quick response?
Yeah, so we're working with the city on that. I know they've got a 311 app that they use for potholes and things like that. I think they're looking at using that as a primary vehicle for any complaints. They'll have a direct hotline to us. So if something like that comes up, we're going to have a administrating contracting office on site. We're going to be administrating and overseeing everything the contractor does. We get alerted of any issue that's outside their contractual issues, we'll be taking immediate action on that. The other thing is that the city is going to be participating in our weekly construction meetings, and so any issues that they're hearing from you guys will be brought directly to our attention, and we'll take action. I'm not going to wait for a weekly meeting. You guys see something, report it immediately. My expectation, it comes to my staff, and we take action.
Is there a plan maybe to include some of the residents that are directly affected in some of those meetings? Because, I know sometimes I'll call, and the city has been good in responding, but sometimes it takes a while. And for us, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, maybe, so what I'm hearing from you is having a mechanism to talk directly to the Corps of Engineers on a more frequent basis as opposed to go to the city management might be something.
Or both,
Both, yeah.
Include the residents in some of these meetings you're having so that you can hear directly from people that are being impacted, like right there.
Yeah, it seems like a really good idea and a prudent action on our part. So maybe we should look for opportunities to make ourselves available to you all directly as well. I know in the past we've done things like office hours, where we find a spot, we just make ourselves available. People can come in and talk to us directly. Okay, all right, thanks for that suggestion. That's a good one. I got a couple people here in the back. I've got some microphones that are closer, so I'm gonna hit them and bring them to you. Just give me a second.
Who had the question here on this side?
Thanks for walking over.
Thank you. Hi, sorry about the baby crying earlier. So my question, my concern is, my husband is sitting in the front, is our 3 children, this one being the youngest. We live literally right on that other side of the wall. We can see into the golf course. And we're concerned in terms of all the construction with the dust. You mentioned dust, the impact on their respiratory. And what is the support that has been provided? I know with the other dams, you said this is the most urban dam. So understanding that, I know when there's like airports and other construction going on, that there's like something that covers vents to support with that. There's mass, there's other things that go into place. Has that been considered, and what is the plan for that? Especially for young children, there's also a school right on Durfee, as you've seen.
Yeah, all good questions. So like I mentioned, the contractor cannot exceed any dust noise ordinances that exist. And so they're working on means and methods to make sure that whatever they do doesn't do that. That will probably include a physical barrier between you and your homes and the construction site to help reduce those issues. Fortunately, I don't think anything we're doing right now will raise to the level that would require any sort of respirators or specific ventilation. Nothing we should be doing should be exacerbating health issues at that level. If it did, I think we'd be talking about different mitigation actions like moving people out. But
yeah, and that's the question I do have, because we're here talking about, like you said, worst case scenario, right? Like we want everything to go well. We're here in support of obviously making sure our homes don't get flooded. We need this project to happen, of course, understanding the research that you all have done, but at what point would we be informed if there is a concern where it does reach a level that surpasses any, already expectation when it comes to dust, chemicals, anything like that? So at what point would we be notified so we can take immediate action?
so 2 things. So in terms of construction, we develop what are called our emergency action plans with our contractor. And if for anything unforeseen, and I'm telling you this would be really unforeseen because we don't expect any contaminants, anything along those lines. We've done extensive, exhaustive investigations. We've owned, maintained this property for 70 years. But in the off chance there was some sort of spillage or some sort of impacts, we've got emergency action plans. We're engaged with all the local emergency officials. We take immediate action. Notifications would come your way. There'd be reverse 911s, all those sorts of things. My goal is to avoid any of that. And all the work we do, and one of the reasons it takes as long as it does to fix a dam like this, is there's a lot of protocols in place to make sure those sorts of things never occur. But we do plan for the worst case scenarios along those cases.
Thank you. Are we able to see those plans ahead of time? Not for fear, but in the off chance, and I work with schools, so it's like we always prepare emergency plan, and we don't want to activate it when we're already in crisis. We want to be prepared ahead of time should something happen, and also as a resident to see how we can support the project to move along instead of getting in the way.
Yeah, I think that's a fair request, and as we develop those emergency action plans as we get ready for construction, we'll obviously share those with the city, and if it's prudent to share it with schools or other folks, we'll figure out a way to do that. So, no, thank you. Go find your baby.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, because that was going to be my concern, is the respiratory issues with my grandkids and all the kids in the community. Also, the pets who have to be outdoors all day. What kinds of things should we be looking out for as it pertains to dust and respiratory issues?
Hopefully, you're not going to see any additional dust than what you're used to. And our goal is to keep the baseline of what exists today the same. Are you going to see some large silt fences, some large barriers? Are you going to hear noise associated with that? Yes. But if we're experiencing, and we're going to have equipment monitoring this as well, if we're experiencing something that causes respiratory illness or issues like that, something's gone wrong. And so that's where those emergency action plans would come into place, or corrective action. Our goal is not to find ourselves in a situation where we're causing you or your grandchildren any respiratory problems. We're working hard to try to reduce that. When you're on the site, when you're crossing the site, you're probably going to see dust. You're probably going to see construction equipment stirring up dust, but at the same time, we're going to be spraying that, bringing it down, have some barriers between your community. I just want to make sure you're aware that those are going to happen. If for some reason something like that happens, we need to know immediately, because we need to take some corrective action.
Okay, and I ditto the resident who said residents should be involved in any meetings, because it would be nice to have some residents in those meetings giving feedback, and you hear it from the residents, as opposed to maybe numbers of calls or complaints that the city has been receiving.
Yeah, that's great feedback. We appreciate you guys sharing that. I hear you. Jesse, that one get shut off?
Hello, my name is Mario. I think you remember me from the last meeting.
Yeah.
Either. Okay, the reason why so many people keep asking the same questions is because we don't really have any solid plan of yours telling us how you're gonna deal with these microorganisms once they get volatile. So their quality is very important for people like myself. My daughter is dealing with cancer, right? And their quality is gonna get affected, regardless that you guys use water or not. Who's gonna be controlling how for us to know right away when we need to use filters or masks or anything of that sort? Who's gonna provide those things if they are needed? We don't see nothing there saying, this is the plan. That's why that question is gonna keep happening constantly, because everybody goes like, no matter how you say it, give me something. We haven't seen nothing of that sort. Property value. Everybody trusts on this city before any of you guys. So we came and this city grew because we all trusted on this city, and it has property value that's gonna get affected. People's gonna get misplaced, people's gonna get the economic impact that we're gonna receive. We don't see any plan on how you're gonna deal with that situation. The city, obviously, they're gonna be in the middle, but we don't have a direct access to you guys like a desk or a person. We're just gonna have many people, and you know what happens when many people's in the middle? Your questions or your concerns vanish. So economical impact for businesses, we know, and everybody is caring so much about the sport arena because it brings good economy to the city. We're gonna have to waste more gas. We're gonna start using more different roads that we are used to. It's gonna affect insurances. It's gonna wear out cars. It's gonna take you more time to get to your house. We don't see any plan there. And those questions are always gonna be in there because we don't see any promises there. So about economy, how are we gonna solve this impact that's gonna harm everybody? Home values, they're gonna drop. Insurances, they're gonna go up. Health insurances, they're gonna be like, hey, this is not us. Go to whoever caused this on you. And then it's gonna be a lot of this that once we come to some person, that person's gonna say, look, wait until I tell another person, and then another person, and then another person, and when they finally the answer, guess, probably it's gonna be late. Is this basically sounds like invitation for people who doesn't feel comfortable with the project to just to go? I don't wanna leave the city. I love the city. We love our neighbors. And this thing is causing a big impact. The closer that you are to the ground zero, the more harm that you're gonna have. Do we see any questions here? About this, about how you guys gonna deal with this situation? I don't see anything. Everything that I see right here is going to happen, deal with it. You don't like it, just leave. That's what I'm translating it like that. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Thank you for sharing the way you're feeling and the angst you're going through. And I'm sorry to hear about your daughter. I will not address all your concerns, and I will not assuage all your fears right now. Again, you are going to notice construction on a level that you do not experience today. Our goal is to do everything we can to make sure that dust, the air quality, is not any worse for you or your family during this time frame. We'll come back this summer, we'll talk to you a little bit more about what the specifics of those are as we're working out. Those are some of the specifics we're working out between now and then. I understand that doesn't satisfy you right now. I apologize. I wish I could. I'm not going to be able to. In terms of economic impacts, all I can tell you is that the work we're doing on this dam is to make sure that Pico Rivera, its businesses and its residents, stay economically viable in the future. If I didn't undertake this project, I would be significantly concerned, and frankly, I would be leaving you more vulnerable than I am other citizens who live downstream of federal dams, and I can't do that with good heart. This job is going to employ people. It's going to employ hundreds of people. You're going to have people coming into the community, hopefully using your businesses, hopefully creating economic development opportunities in the area while we're here. I can't promise you that's going to offset all the issues that you're talking about. You live here, you know it better than me. I'm not trying to dissuade you, I'm just trying to tell you what I know from these construction jobs. A lot of times we see a lot of people move into the community, frequent restaurants, businesses, grocery stores in a way that doesn't happen in the past. I'm not saying that offsets what your concerns are in here today. I'm telling you that I'm doing this not to hurt this town, not to get anyone to leave, but to keep it safe. That's my whole purpose of coming here, so that in the future, the folks who have grown safely downstream of this dam can continue to do that, and Pico Rivera can continue to thrive. I wish I could tell you that was going to come without impacts, but it's not, and I appreciate you sharing all those concerns with me. I'm sorry I can't address them all.
One more thing. We have horses, right? We love, because the north side loves the questions. Last Sunday at 5 o'clock, sheriffs came to tell the people who loves to ride the horses around this side that's going to get impacted that it is no longer for them to be hanging around. That is officially closed. Also, like, I haven't heard nobody speaking about horses, about the flora and fauna, and all those things. I'm like, okay, so can we ignore it? Is not that really a priority, or is a collateral damage? That's another thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised that, and I want to address another concern you raised about the sports arena. And I want to clarify that we are not going to be closing the sports arena as a part of this project. The sports arena will remain open. There's nothing that we're doing that we're closing, and I know we've got the owners and operators in the room here today. I am going to talk about that we're closing permanently one of the access routes to the sports arena, and I know that that has potential impacts to it, and I know the city is engaged in communication with folks to try to offset those impacts. And we also are available to the city to try to find alternate means of access if that's required in the future, but we're not closing the sports arena. In terms of the equestrian activities, we're not closing the equestrian center either. But as I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, I'll just go ahead and cut to it. We'll come back to these. We do have to close a lot of trails that cross over the dam coming through the dam. This entire site is going to be under construction. And if you remember that red hatched area, I've got that contractor moving a lot of areas up and downstream with a lot of heavy equipment. And I can't have people on their bikes or their jogging shoes or their horses coming through that construction site and keep them safe. Frankly, someone would die if that happened. I've got to close those off to keep people safe. And so all the trails that cross over the dam and all the connectors, including one you don't see here, which is an informal trail that kind of comes up from Streamland Park up over to the dam, all those are going to have to be closed during construction. You just cannot leave those open to people. Once we're said and done, trails can get reestablished and all that can work again. And trails that go upstream of the dam or downstream of the dam are still going to be used. But I can't keep people safe and have them traverse through this construction site.
trucks that are going to be coming in and out throughout the process of the 4 to 5 years of the construction being set. Are roads reinforced for that heavy equipment? I know, on the standard rain, we get potholes just from the amount of, let's say, 18-wheelers that come by through Cruz Road for some of the businesses that are there. So I can only imagine the term heavy equipment being used on a daily basis, what's going to affect the roads, and how has that been addressed, or how are we going to, as far as time-wise, make time for that, let's say, repairs for some of the residents that are affected during this time. We don't want to stop the construction, but at the same time, if a road's damaged, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, good question. And our contractor is required to abide by all city ordinances in terms of hauling, weight restrictions, all those sorts of things. So that'll be a part of their constraints in operating with this project. And again, certainly if we have damage to roads that are a result of our project, we'll be on the hook to fix those. Our goal is going to be try to avoid that, but may not be the case. Let me back up and talk about some of the other things as well. Appreciate you raising the trails. I want to talk to you a little bit about the roads. I mentioned this portion of Rooks Road from the 605 that crosses up over to the dam and leads to the Sports Arena Drive is going to have to be permanently closed as a part of this construction job. I cannot put that armoring in place and keep that road functioning at that location. It's just not possible. If there's any way I could do it, I would keep that road there, but I can't. Now, we've told the city, and we're willing to work with them, if they want to explore alternate access routes or find a way to penetrate our dam that would be acceptable and keep the dam safe in the future, there's ways that they can do that, and we'll work with them and their engineering teams to find a safe way to do that, but it can't be a part of my project, unfortunately. The two other roads that we're modifying for this dam are Lincoln and Rosemead. These are two locations where I cannot put that armor in place and have a functioning road. I can't have concrete steps and have vehicles, as many as 40,000 vehicles a day, drive over them. So at these two locations, we're going to raise those roads so they'd never be overtopped. Our goal is to keep these roads open 90–95% of the time, all lanes. There'll have to be some short lane closures, mostly at night, as we make lane shifts as we raise the roads in place. But lane sizes will be restricted, speed limits will be reduced, and to keep people safe. And so I expect that there's going to be more traffic backups at this location specifically. This is one your community is really going to feel, and this is probably the ones you guys have heard about the most. Oh.
I have a question.
Yep.
Councilmember Betts. Hey, Aaron, I just wanted to get a visual from you, if you have the information. So if we're imagining ourselves getting off the 605 freeway and going along Rooks Road, approaching the entrance to the sports arena, there's the berm just to the left of us. Is that berm going to be moved or increased in size? Is that why the road is disappearing? What's the visual on that?
So I'll be honest with you, I don't know what you mean by the berm. You talking about the dam?
The actual raised soil area that runs along the left side of Rooks Road as you go northbound.
Yeah, that is actually the dam. So that berm you're talking about is the damming feature. And so at that location, we're going to be installing that concrete armor, that shield, those steps, and covering that over. And cutting a road through those would create a defect in those steps that we just can't allow at that location. So that's the reason the road can't be there. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. All right. And now, that same feature, I call it a berm or raised soil along Rosemead Boulevard at Durfee. As you go northbound, again, you have that raised soil along the left-hand side. Will that also be a concrete feature that's going to be built up?
So let's make sure we're talking about the same things. You're talking about Rosemead as it crosses up over the dam?
Rosemead Boulevard as it passes northbound of Durfee.
Northbound of Durfee.
Gallatin Road, rather.
Gallatin, yes. So that again is where it is actually, that berm you're referring to is the dam. So that location, because this road was built before the dam was put here, And because the county still has primary rights on that road, we're actually going to raise that road so that we don't have to install those steps or that armor at that location, and we can keep a functioning road at this location. The reason we're not doing that over here on part of Rooks Road is because you guys established that road after the dam was built, and it was at the understanding that it could be there as long as we could allow it. Unfortunately, we can't allow it anymore. Does that make sense? Is that good? Yeah. Okay. Good questions. Lots of people trying to trip me up tonight, Jesse. Okay. I mentioned to you guys earlier, these are two critical locations where I've got to put in that French drain and that berm. Those are two areas where the sands underneath the dam are highly erodible. And so there are two spots that I've got to close these two parks to be able to install those features. Those are really critical spots. I wish I didn't have to do that. I know how important these parks are to your community. I've been out here, people are golfing out here all day. I've come to understand, I'm not going to pretend to feel the impact that you guys do from the loss of the Pico boys associated with this, but I understand how important it is to your community, and I wish I could avoid it. I cannot. So these two parks are going to be closed during construction. They are going to be permanently modified with that 6 to 10 foot tall berm I told you about. That berm is going to be covered in topsoil and seeded and available for use afterwards. But it's very unlikely you're going to be able to put a ball field on top of that berm or establish a golf course back out here after we're said and done. There's going to have to be a different vision of what recreation looks like in those two park spaces. Bicentennial Park, which is a dormant park right now, is going to be clear, grubbed, and improved, and maybe something the city would be interested in engaging in some alternate recreational space there now. It's certainly going to look better than it does today.
Pushing it to the front, it was the only alternative. It wasn't like best for you guys instead of going to the front of the city, going to the back? Or you guys,
Could you say that again? I apologize.
like pushing the project towards the city, into inside the city, it was the only alternative? Or you guys also studied like going to the back instead?
Yeah, great question. So the question is, why are we having to take the action on the city side of the dam as opposed to the lake side of the dam, right? The other side of the dam. The defects that occur, unfortunately, there's no way to stop. You've got to work that issue on the downstream. When that soil comes, it works its way on the downstream, and so the only way really to address that is put those engineered features on the downstream side of the dam to address that.
You know, I live right across the street from Streamland Park, and it is used a lot by our kids. How is what you're doing going to impact our green spaces, for example, the trees? That's very, very important.
Yep, I totally get that and understand it. Unfortunately, you're not going to like my answer. Everything you see hatched in here in these shaded orange portions are going to be closed during construction, and everything you see inside of them, including the trees and the ball field, are going to have to be removed during construction.
All of the trees?
All of the trees. About this portion through here is going to have that 6-foot burn that comes off the dam going downstream. And where that portion will be available for some passive recreation space, you won't be able to plant trees or put any kind of penetrations into that. It would be harmful to the dam. Downstream of that berm, trees and other things can go in to the ground. It is not permanently closed. It'll have to be used differently. It'll be a lot less developed.
But no, in actuality, like it's not going to be a usable space other than there.
Yeah, it'll be passive. Yep.
Yeah.
It'll be different. It really will.
So just because I have a hard time reading the map, it's all right. So where's Cruise Road? And are the trees that are directly next to Cruise Road going to be impacted? They're going to be cut down?
Sure, let's talk to it. So just to orientate you a little bit, this is Durfee coming up this way, and this is where it's turning into Cruise Road, okay? So this is the road that accesses into the park, right there. So everything on this side will be removed. This area will remain open and there won't be any impacts to that spot right there.
And the trees will stay there.
In this area that's not shaded, yes. Not be affected by my project.
You said that the dam was built for thousands of years, but it's only been around for 70. So what happened?
What happened is that we got smarter in the last 70 years. We have a better understanding of foundation conditions that can cause issues with dams and levees like this, unfortunately due to dams and levees that have failed or experienced performance issues like this. And with every time that happens, we go and investigate all of our dams to see if similar conditions exist. And unfortunately, we found a similar condition here at Whittier, that if we had a storm that was big enough, it could cause that problem for us. That was something that was not understood when these dams were built in the 1970s. The second thing is we know a lot more about 1950s, 70 years ago. We know a lot more about weather than we did in the 1950s. We're better at understanding what kind of storms can occur and what kind of impacts they can have on our dam. We're smarter than we were in the 1950s.
So I'm looking at the picture on the screen about the trails and the bike paths, and it looks like once you close it, you're really going to sever the north side and the south side entirely for horses, bikes, everything. Has there been any thought given to trying to create a single path or a single corridor anywhere, somewhere, a detour? Because it looks like right now it's just total severage, and you know, that's not going to help anybody really if you can't go connect the two pieces. Even if it's a long detour, right? Bike riders like long. I mean, it's tolerable, but it just looks like there's nothing.
Yeah, you're right. It is going to be a total severage during construction. I know that the county looked at opportunities to do a detour. As I understand to date, they have not identified one that they've been able to implement. That's beyond the scope of my project. I don't own real estate beyond the project, and I don't have the right or authority to go out and create bike trails that are off my project. So during construction, these are going to have to be severed, and they'll have to be restored after construction.
Are there any renderings of what it could possibly look like at the end of construction for residents to get a sense of life after construction as far as areas that are being impacted the most?
No, but we're working on those. That was mentioned at the last town hall too, and I can see why that would be extremely helpful for you guys. Now, we have shared some of our more technical drawings with the city management and Parks and Rec department so they can understand what that area is going to look like from a grading and elevation change differences. So they're starting their planning on what it would look like. But I think we owe you guys some more common understandings of some renderings of what it'll look like, and we'll get back to you with those. We owe you that.
So earlier you said that I understand that with climate change, everything is getting worse, the storms are getting worse, and you said that what could happen here was a hypothetical, and you said you noticed at some other dam that was very similar to ours. Can you point out which dam it was, what state that happened in, so that we can get a perspective of the degree of storm that we could anticipate to cause the dam to fail? Because the other way of thinking about it is, hypothetically, this storm that you're discussing happens in the next 4 years. What happens then?
Yeah, that would be a scary day. So those are good questions.
Because it doesn't rain a lot.
It doesn't. You guys are in a Mediterranean climate, right? And the reality is you've had other hazards that have taken up your bandwidth. Seismic, fires, cost of living, homelessness, things that you guys are experiencing, if not on a daily basis, an annual basis, right? The system of dams, levees, and channels that we built over the past 70 years with the county have done such a good job of reducing your all's flood risks, you haven't noticed them. But they are out there. You asked about a magnitude of storm that could occur somewhere else in the country that could cause some issues with this dam. 2 years ago, we had one of those pineapple expresses, one of those atmospheric rivers come up and set up over the Central Valley of California. They experienced some widespread flooding. You even had a long dormant lake reestablished, a natural lake reestablished during that flooding. A storm of that magnitude would not have overtopped Whittier, but it would have caused us the performance concerns that we're worried about with the foundation conditions here. Now, those are concerns, they're not certainties. And when those foundation issues occur and we start seeing that seepage downstream, we see that. There's some visible evidence of distress on the dam, and there are emergency actions we can take if and when something like that would happen to reduce the chance of the dam being failed. We're undertaking this investment because we don't want to rely on emergency actions when we see bad things happening in our dams to keep you guys safe. If a storm of that magnitude would occur prior to us to finalizing this project, we'd be out there taking those emergency actions. And actually, we'd be bolstered because we'd have a contractor out there with a lot of materials that would help us do it in the interim. But there is a reality, a very small probability, that something like that could occur before we're finishing this dam. It could occur this winter before we even really get started. Very unlikely, but a probability exists, and we have emergency action plans and stay in contact with your emergency management officials. If we get any sense that a storm like that is setting up, we usually get a couple weeks notice before they happen, several days before we know something's going to happen. We're going to be in contact with emergency officials. If for some reason you guys are told to leave your homes or to evacuate vertically, find some high ground, get to a parking garage, listen to them, because I want to keep you safe. I'm telling you that because I don't think that's going to happen in the next few years, but if it were to happen, I want you guys to take any orders you get from emergency management officials very seriously. That's important to protect your lives. In the meanwhile, I'm doing everything I can to get this fixed as fast as I possible so this no longer has to be a concern for you guys. Getting it fixed as fast as possible would mean me doing things that would make these impacts even worse to you guys. I'm trying everything I can to minimize these impacts. I just can't avoid them and get this dam fixed so that you don't have to worry about that storm and you don't have to worry about evacuating in the future. Yep.
You know, I've lived in our home for over, almost 40 years, and for many, many years we've been hearing of you guys doing this work. What prompted you to do it now? And do you have new information that we didn't have years ago, and why now? Because I keep hearing this year after year that this is going to happen, and now it's actually happened. Do you have new information that you can share with us that didn't happen years ago? I mean,
We have taken some incremental investments at the dam over the time as we've come to understand these issues. But in 2019, we completed a comprehensive reevaluation of the project where we identified these two issues. We got that study approved. We got funding to complete the design efforts, which were exhaustive and extensive because we don't want to. This has to be highly engineered and carefully thought out. And so it took us a number of years to finalize that design, get it advertised, and get the funds available to award that contract. So that's really been the timing it's taken us for us to do that. I think we had a question in the back.
Hi. I come, on behalf of the equestrian community. I'm heavily involved with the equestrian community. We have a regional coalition, and we've been working several years monitoring the situation. To be frank, I'm concerned that in a city that's 90% Latino, that you guys don't have interpreters here at this meeting or at the previous meeting. I think that you're running into potential Title VI violations, not doing the necessary community engagement in the language that the communities speak in. I think that is one of the first concerns that I have. But beyond that, the road closure that you're talking about that leads to the sports arena, that road closure, it was renamed in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. It's Vicente Fernandez Road, Avenida Vicente Fernandez. And Vicente Fernandez was like, you know, one of the most significant singers in, you know, the Mexican culture. It was a very significant thing for the city of Pico Rivera to rename that road, and you're gonna permanently remove it. I mean, that's like a loss of cultural patrimony. Same thing with the sports arena. You say that it's gonna stay open, but if you remove that road, then you're effectively closing it because ingress and egress is not the same. You only have one other way to get in there, and that road would be Rooks Road. And you know, the fire marshals wouldn't allow events to be going on at the sports arena if there's only one road in and one road out because of the potential fire hazards. The other thing is there's been lack of engagement and notice to the communities in unincorporated Los Angeles County that would also be impacted by this. You know, the sports arena and the equestrian trails there and the bike trails, it's a hub for a huge portion of the East San Gabriel Valley. You have the equestrian community of El Monte that meets there and converges there. You have Avocado Heights that goes there and converges there. And of course, the Pico Rivera and Pellissier Village. But on the bike trail, you also have a huge north-south corridor that I don't see any plans or contingencies to offset or mitigate the loss of one of the most important bike routes that we have within this entire area of Los Angeles County. And then just to kind of wrap it up, you know, I talked to Michelle O'Connor from Los Angeles County Trails, and she said that she's had a horrible, you know, communication with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, that you guys have not been forthright about what these closures really entail. And, you know, and I think there are significant health hazards as well. We know that all kinds of toxic contaminants come into the San Gabriel River when there's a rainstorm. If there's gonna be dust flying in the air, I mean, we don't really know effectively that there isn't lead or arsenic or, you know, residue from the batteries of the vehicles that are being driven on the roads, or the tire, the tread from the tires, or even when the cars brake. We don't know if any of that's present within the San Gabriel River, and if that's gonna, you know, be creating some sort of, you know, safety hazards for the community, the nearby community. And there's, you know, like the Pellissier Village, there's only one road in, one road out. We don't know how this might impact them. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I do think that there's just tremendous dissatisfaction. We've been hearing about this dam modification going back several years, but, you know, all of a sudden it's now happening, right? And there's still no detailed, comprehensive analysis. You know, we've been told some trails are gonna be closed. Which trails are gonna be closed? You know, and you know, why not be able to have interpreters to explain it to the community?
Hey, I appreciate the comment about the interpreters. That's a good challenge flag on us. We did arrange for an interpreter to be available at the first town hall. Unfortunately, she wasn't available tonight. Jesse's here tonight. We've got several other Spanish speakers. If there's anything that's been said tonight that somebody needs translated, or they need to talk to a teammate and need a translator, we're happy to provide that. Thanks for throwing that challenge flag. Good comment. In terms of the equestrian and the biking community, I'm sorry to hear that from Michelle. We've been working with her for years and made her aware of these impacts, and been trying to find ways to work with them to restore those trails as a part of our project. Unfortunately, that's not happened to fruition, but those are conversations that we continue to work with, you know, as we get into construction. There could even be modifications to our contract if the county can find ways to fund restoration of those trails. Fortunately, that's beyond my authority to provide different routes or restorations to those trails. And unfortunately, they do cross the areas in which we've got to make those direct impacts associated to make the dam safe. So I'm not going to assuage many of your concerns there. In terms of outreach with the equestrian and the biking communities, I think we're very open to whatever we can do to make them aware of those situations. And if you see opportunities for us to be able to engage there at the Equestrian Center, or offer other opportunities to engage with those communities to make sure they're aware of what's coming, I'd appreciate your feedback here tonight. And please talk to our teammates.
I'm sorry. I did have a follow. I mean, you said that it's beyond the scope, or that it's not necessarily the jurisdiction. But I mean, you guys are required to look at the cumulative impacts that would come from this. Including mitigation measures, and disclose whether there's significant impacts. I think clearly there are significant impacts, and I do think that this does present cumulative impacts to the community. So, I mean, I would like to see more to address that.
Appreciate it, understand it. When we do, you're right, NEPA does require us, the National Environmental Policy Act does require us to consider and disclose any significant impacts associated with that. We have prepared an environmental impact statement that was put in 2019, and a supplemental environmental assessment associated with that as well. The nuance here is that these trails are out-granted by the federal government on property that was purchased and used to own and operate a dam to keep you guys safe from flood risks. And when we can make that land available for alternate use, we're very happy to. When we have to close that land to operate and maintain it, because we out-granted that with an understanding that we could take it back to operate and maintain it, I can't use federal funds to offset that particular thing, because we out-granted it with the understanding it was only available until we have to pull it back to use it. Once we're said and done, we'd love to out-grant it to get trails restored. I don't think that addresses your concern, but it's the honest answer I have to give you. Someone made a comment that some of this should be translated in Spanish, so I just got called on a red flag. Can we have? Okay, you ask your question, but then Jesse, would you talk a little bit quickly in Spanish about the things we did right now? Because I think that was a really good comment. Yeah, please.
Bueno. Estoy disponible para hablar yo en español. También la señorita aquí, si hay preguntas para gente que habla español y prefiere escuchar respuestas en español, estamos aquí para ayudarles. No hay nada que estamos ocultando. Preguntas, no existe algo muy difícil o muy simple. Aquí estamos para ayudarles a ustedes y disponible.
If I can add something, so you mentioned outreach. So all the outreach materials that we are creating are bilingual. Y lo que estoy diciendo es que gracias. Nada más para mencionar, el caballero dijo outreach, los materiales, ¿no?, que vamos a utilizar para efectos de divulgación pública, todo está traducido en español, así que digo, al contrario, a mí me encanta hablar español, es mi primer idioma, así que si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, pues estoy aquí para servirles.
Muchas gracias, Karen.
Yes, Gus Contreras on behalf of the Montebello District Association of Realtors. One of our members' concerns is to know if this project will modify or change anyhow the flood zone in the city. Because the city of Pico used to be considered a flooding zone, and homeowners were required to have additional insurance coverage for the property. So, and then you guys modified it and it went back to a not requirement. Will that be an issue now with this project coming up?
Good question. I need to caveat this question that I am not an expert in insurance or flood insurance. I will tell you that generally people who live downstream of a dam as robust as this are usually regulatorily or legally not required to have flood insurance, because we have eliminated the flood risk that usually requires flood insurance. What I can tell you is that nothing we're doing in this dam will increase your flood risk. It will decrease your flood risk to levels that usually the insurance industry is not interested in. But I am not an expert in insurance. If you're getting information from your insurance companies, or people are outreaching you and telling you you need additional insurance, do your research, talk to your city management, talk to your existing flood agents, insurance coverage folks you trust, and make sure you get answers from them, because I am not the expert in that. I think there's a lot of interest and a lot of concerns from people in the room tonight. I'm not surprised by that. I expected it. You guys have asked a lot of good questions. I've tried to answer them as honestly as I could. I'm sorry, I promised this gentleman that I'd give him the floor. But then after that, I'm going to remind you why we're here, and then encourage you to go talk to my teammates in the back, because unfortunately the golf course is going to ask us to leave right around 8 o'clock, and I want to give you some time to have some more intimate conversations with my teammates. But let me start with you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So this dam, have you guys done any ground testing? That's one question. And all the material, I'm assuming since this was built, 75 years or more? So they used old materials. So do we have to be concerned, what is that, the silica dust silica, or was it toxic sediments or asbestos? Because I haven't heard you say if you guys done any ground testing. And also, I don't know if you mentioned, are you working with an agency with air quality control or anything like that, that at least would alleviate most of us, especially the ones that live close to that area, that might help at least and have that kind of transparency?
Yeah, hey, good question. So yes, we did do comprehensive investigations to make sure that there's no contaminants in the dam or areas that we're going to excavate. We didn't find anything of concern. We always have things in our contract if something unexpected comes up, and we would deal with it. The excavation in the dam is going to be very limited. The trench, again, we tested that area. Most of that fill will go back to raise those roads. And then the sands and gravels that we're bringing in, I'm sorry, I'm pointing to a picture like there's one up there, but I had a picture of a bunch of sands and gravels going up against the dam. Those are going to be coming from clean borrow sites up at Santa Fe next to all the quarries that you see up through there. So those will be cleaned, washed, and processed and brought down on site. And yes, we've had to comply with all agencies that regulate air quality, ground quality, all those sorts of things, and coordinated with them with everything that we're going to do.
Will we have access to them? Will we have access to those?
Yes, all those reports are documented in our environmental impact statement. I'm looking at my environmental teammate, Chris. Those are all reports that are available, and our analysis accordingly. So, I don't think we have those on our website, and we should add those to our website so you guys can look at it. But I'll be honest with you, those are really thick technical documents. I personally have a hard time understanding a lot of them, so I think making us available so you guys can come in with those documents and ask questions is a legitimate course. Guys, I'm going to wrap up this session because I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of questions, and I want to make sure that they all get the opportunity to ask our folks. I think a lot of you folks are leaving this meeting less happy than you came in. I'm not sure a lot of you came in very happy to begin with. I apologize that I can't alleviate all your concerns and address all your issues. I'm not surprised by that. I'm trying to be honest about that. I just remind you that everything I'm doing and everything my team is doing here is for your guys' benefit and betterment. And I wish I could do it without impacts.
I believe in you. You got to do what you got to do. So,
I appreciate
no matter what anybody in here said, it's still going to be done, folks.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm going to be honest with you. I also appreciate and understand everybody's concern and discord in this room, and we take that seriously. We're still going to take this investment, but I want to do everything I can to be open and transparent and try to address as many of your concerns as I can. You guys brought up some good things that I think we need to improve on. I think we need to find a way to stay directly connected with citizens through the construction. I think we need to do a better job of making sure you guys know we have translators in the room. I think we need to own some transparency on some of the environmental coordination we've done in the past. And I appreciate you guys taking the time for what you've done here today. I'm going to close out. I'm going to ask you, if you've got further questions, to go meet with my teammates in the back room. Wear them out. If they kick us out of here, we'll meet you out on the patio. Keep talking to you there. We've also got those comment cards or concerns. Please write those down and put them down. That's a record that we'll respond to just as well as we will here today. Thank you for taking time on a Wednesday night to come talk to us. Thank you for expressing your concerns. I wish I could address them all. Obviously, I can't. I appreciate your time.